Hello, BCSD third graders. Mrs. Whitman here, coming at you with another math task explanation. I'm going to be doing day 10 today, and this one's going to take a little longer than normal, so buckle up. Let's do it. Okay, it says, use what you learned about multiplication and division to complete the graphic organizer. And we're going to be answering the essential question today. Let's go ahead and read what the essential question is. It says, how can multiplication and division facts with smaller numbers be applied to larger numbers? So all of these bubbles that are around the essential question have something to do with that. I suggest that we complete that before we try to tackle answering the essential question, and that might give us some ideas on how we can answer that later. I thought about what math fact would be good for demonstrating how to do this page, and I am going to do 4 times 12 as my math fact for demonstration purposes. They leave this completely up to you. The idea is to choose a math fact that is where one of the factors is a larger number, like I would say like 9, you would want to choose a math fact with a 9 in it, an 11 in it, or a 12 in it. Challenge yourself, okay? So I'm using a math fact with a 12 in it, and the reason is going to become clear in just a second when I do this first bubble in the graphic organizer, double a known fact. When we double a known fact, we use smaller math facts that we know, math facts with smaller numbers in them, in order to figure out how to do a math fact that has larger factors or larger numbers in it. I may not know the answer to 4 times 12 right off the top of my head, but I may know other math facts that can help me figure out 4 times 12. And when we double a known fact, what we learned earlier this week was we can split apart one of the factors, and in this case, I'm going to split this apart into 6 plus 6. And in doing that, what I've done is I'm going to make 2 math facts now. So now I'm going to write 4 times 6, and I'm going to double it or add the same exact math fact, 4 times 6. Okay, because I split the 12 apart into the exact same number, 6 plus 6. So this is doubling a known fact. Okay, so 4 times 6 is 24. So all I'm doing is 24 plus 24, and that is going to give me my final answer of 48. So that's how we can use smaller math facts like 4 times 6 to help us figure out a larger math fact like 4 times 12. Okay, moving on to repeated subtraction. First of all, we have to figure out what math fact would we be doing if we're doing repeated subtraction, because we started off with a multiplication fact, right? Remember, division is just multiplication kind of backwards. So what I tell my students to do is I tell them to look at the math fact they're working with, the multiplication fact, then start to write it backwards, starting with the answer. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to be doing 48 and not multiply this time, but divided by, and the next number is 12 if we're going backwards, and that should equal 4. Okay, we're going to prove that right now by doing repeated subtraction. So 48 minus 12, there's a 6 in the ones place, 3 in the tens place. I've got to keep doing it, subtracting by 12 until I get to 0. Okay, we're going to do it again. Okay, and it looks like I'm going to get to 0 here. Alrighty, so I did my repeated subtraction 1, 2, 3, 4 times there, and I just proved that 48 divided by 12 is indeed 4. Okay, moving on to the next bubble. Down where it says models, earlier in the week we learned that we can use an array And so I'm going to draw an array here. Use a different color. We can use an array to model decomposing a larger multiplication fact to help us find the answer. So that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to draw my array first for 4 times 12 equals 48. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Just setting this up here. Now I've got to go 12 across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You know what? I'm breaking one of my own rules here. This is going to be hard to draw if I try to fill it in that way. Let me just start like this. So I've got one column of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Try to make sure when you're making your array that you make sure you're doing nice and straight columns and rows. Okay, I just left off on 20, so 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48. Whew, that took a little while. I had to count all the way up to 48, so it took a long time. Okay, I've got my array drawn here, and now what I'm going to do is break it up. I'm going to just chop it right in half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see, I've got 12 across, so I've got to go to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That looks like it's about half. Okay, now what I've done is I've made a picture or a model of the math that I've got going on in that bubble up there. Because if I count my array, the 2 smaller arrays that I now have, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I've got 4 rows and 6 columns. And over here I have the same, 4 rows and 6 columns. So this is a 4 times 6 array. This is a 4 times 6 array. And when I add those together, I already know I get 48. Okay, so you're just demonstrating it in another way, a more visual way. That's what a model is. Now, finally, with properties, some of the math pages at the beginning of the week or even last week, they talked about when you double a known fact. I'm not exactly sure if they referenced the associative property, so this might be a little bit tricky if you're not familiar with the associative property. Basically, what the associative property says is that we can multiply more than 2 factors, and we can multiply them in any order that we want, and we can get the same answer. We can group them with parentheses, and we can get the same product. Okay, so the way that it applies to this math fact is when we double a known fact. Right here, we know we were doing for 4 times 12 equals 48. We were splitting this up into 6 plus 6, right? So 4 times 6 plus 4 times 6. Another way of writing that is 4 times 6 times 2, okay? Because doubling is the same as adding the same 2 numbers, okay? So I'm going to prove that right now I'm going to do 4 times 6 first, and 4 times 6 I know is 24. And again, if I'm doing times 2, that's the same as doing 24 plus 24. Okay, so I know that equals 48. Now, the other way to write this, right here, let me make some room for myself. The other way to write this would be to write it grouped differently with our parentheses in a different place. 4 times 6 times 2. I could do 6 times 2 first, and I get 12. then I still have to do 4 times 12, and I already know that is 48 as well. So I grouped it 2 different ways. My parentheses are here, around 4 times 6 the first time, and my parentheses are over here around 6 times 2 the second time, but I still get the same answer. So that is a demonstration of the associative property of multiplication. Again, the math pages from earlier in the week didn't really give a good explanation of that. So if you are not sure what they are talking about and you're like, I have no idea what the associative property is, that's the first time that I'm seeing that, Miss Whitman. I don't blame you at all. So you can go ahead and just fill in my explanation instead of your own if you're struggling with that. Okay, and finally, we're going to reflect on the essential question and write our answer below. Let's read the essential question one more time. It says, how can multiplication and division facts with smaller numbers be applied to larger numbers? Well, we learned that you can use multiplication facts with smaller numbers to find the answer to multiplication facts with larger numbers by doubling the known fact. That's one way. Or we can also use decomposing as a strategy to find the answer to a larger multiplication fact. So I've got to try to write that concisely down here. I don't have very much space. So let me see what I can do. I'm going to say I can use smaller multiplication. I'm not going to even write out the whole word. Multiplication facts to help find larger ones by doubling a known fact or decomposing. Okay, there's a lot of math vocabulary that I just used in this video. There's a lot of math strategies that were demonstrated in this video. And if you're thinking in your head, wow, I am just lost, I have no idea what you're talking about, Mrs. Whitman, then I suggest going back and watching some of my other videos from earlier in the week, because I go into these strategies and this vocabulary much more in detail, and then you'll be able to understand a little bit more about what we're doing here on this day 10 math task. I definitely wouldn't want to approach this day 10 math task without having some kind of background knowledge, because this is kind of more of a let's see what you've learned type of math task that I would give my students after we've been practicing for a while. Okay, boys and girls, so that's going to be it for today. I will see you next week with more videos. Bye.